Hello, everybody. My name's AJ. I suffer from the disease of alcoholism. I got sober July 26, 2013. My life's pretty good today, but how I got to this point is what I'd like to share with you. I was born and raised in Covington, Kentucky, which is right across the bridge, kind of like a little suburb of Cincinnati, if you ask me. Come from a broken home where my mom worked all the time and my dad had an issue with addiction. It ended up splitting up my mom's marriage, and my mom's sister moved in to help raise me and my little brother. I'm very fortunate because I got to live in the same house my entire life. My mom, she had her own struggles, and her sister was real abusive. We didn't get along, and that led to me running the streets. I had low self-esteem, low self-worth. I was just about ready and willing to do anything to fit in. So I started running the streets with my friends all the time, and before you know it, I was, drinking, smoking pot, and trying to be like something I wasn't. And when I was 13 years old, my whole life would change because somebody tried to rob a group of me and my friends, and I shot that person 2 times. And that would lead to me being incarcerated at a really young age. And I was in and out of group homes and boys' camps, and really had my whole childhood stripped from me. But yet God had another plan, because basically I was being prepared for what my future would be. When I was released when I was 18, I had no idea that I suffered from alcoholism. My home's broken. My mom, really, I don't think that she really ever had hope. I think that she wished the best and expected the worst. But I think that she believed in who I was at the core. And my whole life I spent blaming all my problems on everybody. People, places, principles. When I got out when I was 18, I never had matured emotionally. My views on life were very selfish and self-centered. They would end up landing me, when I was 21 years old, I would get a 16-year prison sentence for DUI, 2 counts of wanton endangerment on a police officer, fleeing and evading police in a motor vehicle, and a PFO-1. I would have to serve that whole sentence out before I was released. I would never make parole on it, and I never knew that. But in that time of incarceration, life slowed down. I had an opportunity to experience God on a level that I had never experienced God before. And I don't know about you, but for me, I couldn't live for God when I was on the streets. When I was incarcerated, people used to call it like jailhouse religion. But I looked at it like, man, I was broken and at a place where I had nowhere to look but up. And what I experienced in my incarceration in those 8 years it would forever revolutionize my life. The more that I tried to get closer to God, the stronger I became spiritually. I would get released on July 26, 2013, and I was sent to Louisville, Kentucky. I had to go through a substance abuse program before my release. It was at that program that I came in contact with a gentleman named Kenneth Enfield. And for the first time in my life, someone approached me, and when I heard them speak, they spoke to my suffering. They were speaking of themselves, yet I thought they were talking about me indirectly. I would be introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps. And though I never really had a drinking problem, I definitely had issues with substance abuse, period. It seemed like any substance that I used would dominate me. I would not be able to be responsible, productive. I was untrustworthy. I was dishonest. I was selfish to the core. And for the first time, I had came in contact with somebody who was able to help me see the real me. And see, what I saw was someone that was broken, that was dishonest, untrustworthy, irresponsible, and expected other people to do the hard things like raise my children, provide for me. He told me that if I gave him to the end of step 12, everything would change. I wish that I could say I was super active in recovery this whole time, but unfortunately after about 5 years of being in AA, I had a lot of personal issues take place to where I didn't feel like that's the fellowship that God wanted me to be with. So I would bounce from church to church and eventually land at Christ Chapel. And it wasn't that I didn't feel like I needed to be a part of AA or recovery. It was that I felt like I wanted to be who I really was so the right people could surround the real me. And I didn't feel like I was a part of when I came to Northern Kentucky and came back home. I lived in Louisville, Kentucky for right about 5 years before I came back home in 2017. Since I've been back home, I've been free for almost 10 years now. And in this 10 years, the biggest thing that I ever overcame was myself. I learned that I was my problem. That it was because of the way that I thought that I lived the way that I lived. It was because of the way that I thought and I lived off my feelings that I blamed everything but me. But the moment that I addressed the man in the mirror, everything changed. By the grace of God, on a daily basis today, I live for God. And I believe in every man, woman, and child as a conception of God. And that is where all my help has came from. I am not perfect, far from it. But what I am is aware of what my real problem is, which is myself. My mom died last October. By the grace of God, I got to be there with her all the way until she took her last breath. And I got to have a peace in my heart that my mom finally seen. Not only could I stand on my own 2 feet, but that I was moving in the right direction. She got to get peace and comfort. Today, I get to be an example for my kids, for my little brother. I got a beautiful wife. I'm proud to say I'm a part of the local 106 Boilermakers Union. Materially, financially, I'm stable. Spiritually, I'm rich. If it wasn't for God and His grace, if it wasn't for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps that revolutionized my life, if it wasn't for my relationship with God, I would be nothing. What I learned was that I have a conception of God. And it's not my job to try to convince somebody of my conception of God. It's my job to live out what I believe. And what I believe is that it is much more difficult to love other people than it is to hate them. It's much more difficult to be accountable and take responsibility for my actions. It is much more difficult to love and do what God wants me to do than to do what I want. I remember when I first was released, the only thing I wanted was to not go back to jail. No matter what, to be able to make it. When I came to recovery, the only one thing I wanted was just to live a normal life. I'm so grateful that God didn't give me what I wanted. He gave me something that was far greater, far better. And today, my problems are trying to build my credit, trying to juggle bills. I'm not stealing and robbing people and lying and selling drugs or causing harm. Like today, I have an opportunity to try to do the best that I can. I don't try to be perfect. I don't try to be what I think other people think I should be. I be who I really am. I accept that I'm imperfect. My character defects are a reminder that I need God. I try to live out what I believe. I try to make myself of use to other people. I think like the third step prayer is like the basis of how I try to live my everyday life. You know, it says, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those that I would help with thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. When I'm wrong today, I have a desire to make it right. When I go to work today, I try to be the best employee I can possibly be. I try to be the best father to my children, the best husband to my wife. And the craziest thing is like, I still have struggles. Somebody cuts me off on the road, I'll still flip them the bird. People want to argue. Like, I love to argue. But what I've learned is that when something's wrong in here, my feelings are a cue system. They tell me when I need to pray. They teach me when I need to grow. I think the last thing that I need to do is learn anything else. I need to apply what I already know. Whenever I struggle with me, I look for somebody to help. Working with other people has been my greatest gift. Giving back where I had taken has removed all the fears that used to dominate my life. The big book talks about that people, when we're in addiction, we're full flight from reality. Outright mental defectives. We think things like, I'm a good person because I shared my dope with somebody else, or like, I'm a good dad, yet I'm doing nothing to contribute to my children's life. It's like we get comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. I'm so grateful that God gave me the opportunity to exhaust every plan I thought would work, and that I was still breathing at the end so that I could accept help and direction. Addiction is real. Alcoholism is real. It's not just a disease because we're away from comfort, which is the word breakdown. It's a true disease that stems from something bigger. And it's physical and it's mental. And without God's help, I'm not going to be able to overcome it. Without a fellowship of people who live out a healthy lifestyle that's productive and helpful to other people, I'm not going to be able to overcome me. I'm a selfish, self-centered, inconsiderate, dishonest person that operates in a constant state of fear. And apart from God's divine help, I'm utterly hopeless. But the very thing that society had rejected, that seemed doomed, that Every professional class had tried to address and deal with that same thing. When it was given to God, it was perfected. It was then used to save lives. I took advantage of this opportunity to not basically tell story to people feel sorry for me or to try to take credit for what God has done. Today I get to tell the truth about me. I get to be real. I get to overcome fear. J.F. Kennedy said that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to walk through it. Today I have the ability to walk through those things that I fear. Today I have an opportunity to be of service to other people. Today I get to remain free on this Super Bowl Sunday by His grace only. I had to change every principle that I based my life on. That's what the 12 steps gave me. They gave me a set of principles that guaranteed if I lived on them, not only would my life be full and successful, it would be useful to other people. If I can tell you anything, I want to tell you this. God is real. And the same help, the same path is available to you. God could and would when He was sought. Until my pain was great enough, nobody's help was sufficient. Until I got to the end of me, I could make no beginning. But once I got to the end of me, and I was able to truly surrender to Him who has all power, I was given the ability to look within. And when I looked within, I wasn't proud of what I saw. I didn't want to be who I was. So I took a course of action. I admitted to myself, to God, and to my sponsor everything that I had done. I asked God to come and help me remove the things that were not useful to Him. I made a list of the people that I had hurt. I made amends to those people. Some I couldn't. Some I'm still waiting for that opportunity to present itself. But when God put that opportunity in my path to make things right, I took advantage of it. I continue to look within myself. I continue to see why or what's wrong with me. I no longer point fingers or blame others. I set aside time to pray, to study, to get into the things that I need to feed my spirit. I go to meetings. I work with other people that suffer just like me. The greatest gift I ever given, the greatest gift I was ever given, was that I was my problem, not other people, places, and principles. And that God was my solution. And as long as I continue to look at myself and live for God, I will continue to help others. I will continue to have a life full of purpose and meaning. Today's a gift. That's why they call it the present. Thank you for letting me share.